superhero stories ever told. Picture this, a brilliant but kinda awkward high school kid named Peter Parker. He's got a crush on the super smart and charismatic Gwen Stacy, but he's pretty much invisible to her. His life is pretty normal, living with his loving Aunt May and Uncle Ben, haunted by the mysterious disappearance of his parents years ago. One day, Peter stumbles upon his dad's old briefcase. Inside he finds a hidden file containing a complex algorithm and a clue that leads him straight to Oscorp, the massive corporation where his father, Richard Parker, once worked with a one-armed scientist named Dr. Kurt Connors. Driven by curiosity and a desire to understand his past, Peter sneaks into Oscorp Tower. He uses his dad's old ID and bluffs his way into a lab tour led by none other than Gwen Stacy, who happens to be the lead intern for Dr. Connors. As Peter wanders off from the tour group, he finds himself in a room filled with thousands of glowing genetically engineered spiders. One of them, a rather adventurous little arachnid, hitches a ride on his jacket, and just as he's about to leave, bam, it bites him on the neck. He doesn't think much of it at first, but on the subway ride home, things start to get weird. His senses are dialed up to 11, his strength is off the charts, and he suddenly has the reflexes of, well, a spider. He wakes up the next morning stuck to his ceiling, a human fly on the wall. Back at school, his newfound abilities get him into trouble. Flash Thompson, the school bully, is picking on another student. Peter steps in, and with his enhanced agility, he effortlessly dodges Flash's punches and humiliates him by dunking a basketball backwards. This little display of power, however, gets him a lecture from his Uncle Ben, who reminds him of a crucial lesson his father believed in. If you can do good things for other people, you have a moral obligation to do those things. It's a heavy line, but it plants a seed in Peter's mind. Meanwhile, Peter seeks out Dr. Connors, hoping to get answers about his father. He gives Connors the missing piece of his research, the decay rate algorithm from his dad's file. This is the key Connors needs to move forward with his cross-species genetics project. His goal is noble. He wants to use lizard DNA to regrow his missing arm and help humanity. But his corporate superior, a man named Ratha, is pushing him to rush into human trials, threatening to take his research away. That night, Peter has a fight with Uncle Ben and storms out. He goes to a convenience store to buy some milk, but he's 2 cents short. The cashier is a jerk about it, so when a thief comes in and robs the place, Peter lets him go out of spite. A few moments later, he hears a gunshot. He runs towards the sound and finds his Uncle Ben, bleeding out on the sidewalk, a victim of that same thief. The guilt is crushing. He failed the one person who always believed in him. Fueled by rage and grief, Peter uses his powers to hunt down his uncle's killer. He creates a makeshift costume and a pair of web shooters he designed based on Oscorp's high-tensile bio. He becomes a vigilante, a masked figure swinging through the city, confronting every criminal who vaguely matches the killer's description. He becomes the Spiderman. The police, led by Gwen's father, Captain George Stacy, see him as a menace, a lawless troublemaker. While Peter is on his vengeful crusade, Dr. Connors, desperate to save his work from Ratha, makes a fateful decision. He injects himself with the experimental serum. At first it works. His arm grows back, just as he planned, but the side effects are monstrous. He transforms into a giant, aggressive reptilian creature, the Lizard. He rampages across the Williamsburg Bridge, throwing cars around like toys. Peter, now in his full-fledged Spider-Man suit, arrives just in time. He has to save a little boy trapped in a dangling car, and it's in this moment of selfless heroism that he truly understands what Uncle Ben meant. He uses his webs to secure the car and save the boy, realizing his power is meant for more than just revenge. Gwen, being the brilliant person she is, figures out Peter's secret identity. Instead of freaking out, she helps him. She patches him up after his brutal fight with the Lizard, and becomes his partner, his confidant. Their romance blossoms amidst the chaos. Peter even reveals his identity to her, a huge step built on trust. The lizard, now fully consumed by the reptilian side of his brain, hatches a terrifying plan. He wants to use a device called the Ganali device at the top of Oscorp Tower to disperse his serum across the entire city, turning everyone into lizard creatures like himself. He believes he's perfecting the human race, eliminating its weaknesses. Captain Stacy and the police force set a trap for Spider-Man, but Gwen warns Peter he's cornered, and in the ensuing chase, Captain Stacy manages to unmask him. He's shocked to see it's just a kid, the same kid who has dinner with his daughter. But before they can process it, the lizard's plan is set in motion. Peter has to get to Oscorp, but he's injured from the police chase. Seeing Spider-Man struggling, a construction worker whose son Spidey saved on the bridge rallies his fellow workers. They reposition their cranes, creating a direct, clear path for him to swing all the way to Oscorp Tower. It's a beautiful moment, showing that the city is starting to see him not as a menace but as a hero. The final battle is epic. Spider-Man faces the lizard at the top of the tower, while Gwen works in the lab below to create an antidote. Captain Stacy, having a change of heart, rushes to help Peter. The lizard is too powerful, but Captain Stacy buys Peter enough time to swap the lizard's serum with the antidote. In the process, Captain Stacy is mortally wounded by the lizard. As Spider-Man releases the antidote cloud, it rains down on the city, curing Connors and anyone else who might have been exposed. Peter rushes to Captain Stacy's side. With his dying breath, the captain makes Peter promise to stay away from Gwen, to protect her from the dangerous life he leads. It's a heartbreaking request, but Peter, burdened by his sense of responsibility, agrees. In the aftermath, Dr. Connors is in a mental institution. Peter struggles with his promise. He tries to keep his distance from Gwen, even telling her they can't see each other anymore. But as he sits in class, listening to a teacher talk about stories with bittersweet endings, he whispers to Gwen, "Those are the best kind." A small smile crosses her face. He knows, and she knows, that a promise made to a dying man might be the hardest one to keep, especially when it comes to the matters of the heart. And so, our hero, the amazing Spider-Man, continues to watch over his city, forever balancing his great power with his great responsibility. Thanks for tuning in for this amazing journey. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and swing by the comments to let me know what you think. Until next time.
Hello, wonderful story explorers. Gather round, get comfy, and let's journey together into a magical world. Tonight's story is about a little firefly who was afraid of his own light. In a meadow filled with twinkling dandelions and moon-kissed clover lived a tiny firefly named Flicker. Now Flicker was a special little firefly, but he didn't think so. While all his brothers, sisters, and cousins zipped through the night, leaving trails of brilliant, bright light, Flicker would hide under a large mushroom cap. You see, Flicker was afraid of his own glow. "It's too bright," he'd whisper to himself. "Everyone will stare at me." So every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the Firefly Festival of Lights began, Flicker would dim his little lantern until it was barely a speck. He would watch the other fireflies dance, creating beautiful patterns against the dark velvet sky, and a little sigh would escape him. He longed to join them, to paint the night with his light, but his fear kept him tucked away in the shadows. One evening, a wise old owl named Professor Hoot landed softly on a branch above Flicker's mushroom. Professor Hoot had seen many things in his long life. and he had noticed the little firefly who never danced. "Good evening, little one," he hooted gently. "A fine night for flying, isn't it? Yet you are down here." Flicker shuffled his tiny feet. "My light, it's too showy," he mumbled. "I don't want everyone looking at me." Professor Hoot blinked his large round eyes. "Ah, I see. Your light is a part of you, little Flicker. It's your gift. Hiding it is like a bird refusing to sing its song." Flicker looked up, his antennae twitching with curiosity. "A gift?" he asked. "But it just makes me feel different." Professor Hoot smiled a wise, owly smile. "Being different is what makes you, you. And sometimes, what we fear most is our greatest strength." With a silent flap of his wings, the owl was gone, leaving Flicker to ponder his words. Under the glowing moon, the next night, a thick, heavy fog rolled into the meadow. It was so dense you could barely see your own antennae in front of your face. The fireflies, who were usually so cheerful, were now buzzing with worry. Little Petal, a baby firefly on her very first flight, had gotten lost in the thick mist. Her tiny light was just a faint glimmer, and she was crying for her mother. The other fireflies tried to find her, but their lights just bounced off the fog, creating a confusing, blurry haze. They couldn't see a thing. Panic began to spread through the meadow. They flew in circles, calling out Petal's name, but their lights weren't strong enough to cut through the heavy blanket of white. From his spot under the mushroom, Flicker could hear Petal's frightened squeaks and the worried calls of the other fireflies. His little heart ached for them. He thought about what Professor Hoot had said. Sometimes what we fear most is our greatest strength. Taking a deep, shaky breath, Flicker made a decision. He squeezed his eyes shut and focused. He thought about how scared little Petal must be. He thought about how much he wanted to help his friends and family. And then he let his light shine. Not just a little bit, but with all his might. A brilliant, powerful beam of golden light erupted from his tail, brighter than any firefly in the meadow had ever seen. It was like a miniature sun, cutting a clear, steady path straight through the thickest part of the fog. It was so bright and so focused. All the other fireflies stopped and stared, their lights suddenly looking pale in comparison. For a moment, Flicker felt that old fear creep back in. Everyone was looking at him. But then, he heard a tiny voice cry out, I can see the light." It was Petal. Following Flicker's bright beam, she flew out of the fog and straight into her mother's waiting legs. The entire meadow erupted in cheers. The fireflies buzzed and danced around Flicker, not in a way that made him feel stared at, but in a way that felt like a warm, glowing hug. "You saved her," they chirped. "Your light is amazing." Flicker looked at his own bright glow, no longer with fear, but with pride. He realized Professor Hoot was right. His bright light wasn't something to hide. It was his special gift. It was what made him unique, and it was a gift he could use to help others. From that night on, Flicker never hid his light again. He became the meadow's official lighthouse, guiding lost bugs home on foggy nights and leading the firefly ballets with his magnificent, brilliant glow. He danced higher and brighter than anyone else, not to show off, but because he was finally happy just being himself. And he learned that the brightest light of all comes from sharing your own special spark with the world. So, my little friends, remember Flicker the firefly. Each and every one of you has your own special light inside you. It might be your kindness, your clever ideas, your funny jokes, or your amazing drawings. Don't ever be afraid to let it shine brightly for all the world to see, because your light might be exactly what someone else needs to find their way out of the fog. Thank you for listening to our story tonight. I hope it filled your hearts with a little bit of light and warmth. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more amazing adventures, sweet dreams, and keep shining bright.
Have you ever felt like someone was playing games with your mind? Well, you might be right. Today, we're diving into the shadows of the human psyche to uncover some chilling dark psychology facts. Brace yourself, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you see the world. First up, ever heard of the door-in-the-face technique? It's a classic manipulation tactic. Someone makes a huge, outrageous request they know you'll refuse. Then, they follow up with a much smaller, more reasonable request, the one they actually wanted all along. You, feeling a little guilty for saying no the first time, are much more likely to agree. It's a subtle trap, making you feel like you're compromising when you're actually just being guided. Next, let's talk about love bombing. It sounds sweet, but it's anything but. A manipulator will shower you with intense affection, praise, and gifts right at the beginning of a relationship. They make you feel like the most special person in the world, creating a powerful emotional high. But once you're hooked, they can pull it all away, leaving you desperate for their approval and willing to do anything to get that feeling back. It's a cruel cycle of idealization and devaluation. Then there's gaslighting. This one is truly insidious. It's when someone intentionally makes you doubt your own sanity, your memories, and your perception of reality. They'll deny things they said or did, even when you have proof. They'll say things like, "You're just being too sensitive," or "That never happened. You're imagining things." Over time, this erodes your self-confidence, making you completely dependent on your manipulator for your sense of what's real. It's a slow, creeping, psychological takeover. Have you ever met someone who subtly puts you down with backhanded compliments? That's called neg. It's a tactic used to undermine your self-esteem, making you seek their validation. They might say something like, "That's a nice outfit. I'm surprised you could pull it off." It sounds like a compliment, but it has a hidden barb designed to make you feel insecure and more eager to please them. It's a cheap shot, but surprisingly effective. Another disturbing tactic is using intermittent reinforcement. Think of a slot machine. You don't win every time, but the occasional, unpredictable reward keeps you pulling the lever. Manipulators use this same principle in relationships. They'll be kind and loving one moment, then cold and distant the next. This unpredictability creates a powerful, addictive bond, as you're constantly chasing the good times and hoping for that next hit of affection. It keeps you emotionally off balance and trapped. And finally, the power of mirroring. This is when someone subtly mimics your body language, speech patterns, and even your breathing. On the surface, it helps build rapport and trust. But in the wrong hands, it's a tool to create a false sense of connection. The manipulator makes you feel like you've met a soulmate, someone who just gets you. In reality, they're just a reflection of you, a blank canvas they're using to draw you in before revealing their true intentions. These tactics are unsettling because they exploit our basic human needs for love, connection, and validation. Recognizing them is the first step to protecting yourself. Stay aware, trust your gut, and don't let anyone play with your mind. If you found this unsettling but insightful, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the human mind. Stay safe.